of Oslo, there are so many beautiful church buildings. Among them are the St. Edmund's Church, which is an Anglican church built not by the Norwegians but by the British. So it's a red brick neo-Gothic building. And now we will have a chance to know more about the history as well as the current activities of the church. So come on in.
Welcome to St. Edmund's Church. It was built in 1884 in the heart of Oslo. The church is small and intimate with several stained glass windows around. The church was built by the English congregation in Christiania, a simple neo-Gothic style and has since then been the main church of the Anglican chaplaincy in Norway. The church named after Edmund because he was a strong Christian during that time. Edmund the Martyr was killed in brutal fashion. St. Edmund's Church is a church of tremendous diversity, with people from all ages, many races and nations, and social backgrounds. They include single people, families, refugees, expats, and long-established citizens of England. This church is home for English-speaking, in which people can find somewhere to worship, learn, and find friendship. In addition, the church is a way that offers room to breathe, to think, to pray, to explore, and to grow wise in the knowledge of God. At the heart of worship is the giving thanks to God and acknowledging the need of God to each other. Many church members at St. Edmund's are a long way from home, and everyone can benefit from a friendly talk, a cup of coffee, and a Christian's fellowship.
What an amazing building and impressive church service. So now we have a chance to talk to pastor of the church, Dr. Brian Rosa.
Of course, when this church was built in 1884, Norway was in union with Sweden. So there was not an English-British ambassador to Norway because the ambassador was in Stockholm. Independent of the union with Sweden in 1905, they chose to have a prince from Denmark to come to be the king of Norway. And he was married to Maud from England. She was the daughter of King Edward VII and the granddaughter of Queen Victoria. So in 1905, Norway had a queen from England. And she worshipped in this church. The reason he is chosen is not because he was killed by the Vikings. In the 1100s, there was a monastery begun near Oslo, just outside Oslo. One is called Hovediya, and on that island you find the ruins of a monastery.
Yeah, I saw it.
That monastery was an English monastery, monks coming from England, and they dedicated their monastery to St. Edmund and the Virgin Mary. So when this church is to be opened in 1884, they say, who shall be our saint? And they said, well, we stand in a tradition of English mission in Norway. So we must have St. Edmund to connect us, not to the Vikings who killed him, but to the monks who came from England to begin that ministry in the 12th century. Who have come here at that time from England and America, and so they decide to get together to raise the money to build an English church connected to the Church of England, but all the worship being in English, so that even if you were not Church of England, but you wanted to worship in English, this could be a home for you. So it was always both Church of England in its liturgy and teaching, but open to other people who were happy to worship that way and to use the English language. So many of our congregation are English and American, but they are living here permanently, and their children are born here.
Yeah.
So they are the continuing part of our congregation now. Then, because of study opportunities and work opportunities, we have, as you saw, people from many African countries and also from India coming to Norway. They may be Anglican from Africa, and they like our church, they like our worship, they like the choir, they like the teaching. And so we do have some Norwegian people who have chosen to become part of our church, including some in the choir. But also people who are studying and trying to find work who are also very poor. So we cover the whole range of people in Norway. In England at the time of King Henry VIII, there was a lot of interest in the Reformation, and learning from Luther and from what was happening in Europe. At the time, England was part, as were many places, of the Catholic Church. The worship was in Latin. The worship was really led by the priests and the monks, and so the idea was they prayed to God for everybody else, and the congregation made their own prayer alongside. So the worship was really here, and the congregation did not understand Latin, they had their own separate prayer at the same time. So it was very different. And the Reformation was about everybody having a personal faith, not just trusting the church to pray for them, but to pray themselves, to believe for themselves, to read the Bible for themselves. And so in England there was, as in Norway, a strong feeling that the Bible must be put into English so they can read. Of course, the windows tell a little bit of the story of Jesus. You don't have to be able to read all the time. Pictures were helping, but they said people must have the Bible in their own language and the worship service in their own language so that they can all grow in their own personal faith. This is the heart, I think, of what the Reformation does. It changes the liturgy. So it is the liturgy of all the people, not just the liturgy of the priests. And the people relate to God through Jesus, not via the priest, but we are all priestly as a people. We call it the priesthood of all believers in the Lutheran tradition. So the Via Media was settled in 1662 as a way of trying to have everybody stay in one church. It didn't entirely work. Some people, of course, were more Protestant, and they, in fact, were going to America for their religious freedom. So, but the Via Media was an attempt to bring all of the people together in one church, which could value the different approaches, but keep them in a balance. We had a Children and Families Ministry Weekend Festival, and we had 20 children in church, and we admitted 6 of our youth group to Holy Communion. So we have a children's church and a youth group. They are not big, but they are doing good work with the children and young people we have to build them as followers of Jesus. You grow more close to Jesus if you are generous. You don't just raise money for yourself. So in Lent we have been raising money for the church, but also we support an orphanage. You see it in the service sheet, the Shirley Cripps Orphanage in Zimbabwe. So we raise money. That is why we have the soup in that. And helps you to think about the world church, because Jesus died for the whole world, not just for us. So we cannot become a little club of Christians. A church is about being a sign of the worldwide church of God, which is universal and Catholic.